Question 1. Under the assumption that Mr. Lewis is supervising a team installing ductwork in a confined mechanical room, he notices that some workers are entering a space with limited ventilation and potential refrigerant leaks without checking the air quality first. What should Mr. Lewis do to ensure compliance with OSHA and prevent a hazardous exposure? A. Allow workers to enter as long as they are PPE. B. Require atmospheric testing and provide respirators if necessary before entry. C. Post warning signs, but let workers use their judgment to enter. D. Only train workers on general chemical hazards without testing the space. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA requires that confined spaces with potential hazardous atmospheres be evaluated for oxygen deficiency, flammable gases, or toxic chemicals before entry. Relying solely on PPE without atmospheric testing or only providing training does not eliminate the hazard. Posting signs without monitoring still leaves workers at risk. The correct practice involves testing the air and providing appropriate respiratory protection if levels exceed permissible limits, ensuring worker safety in compliance with OSHA standards for confined spaces. Question 2. In a context of a construction site, Ramirez observes that several ladders used for accessing rooftop HVAC units are worn, with damaged rungs and missing anti-slip feet. What is the most effective action she should take? A. Replace or remove the damaged ladders from service immediately. B. Advise workers to climb carefully and avoid using the top rungs. C. Apply tape to cover damaged rungs and continue using them. D. Let workers decide whether the ladders are safe to use. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Although it may seem reactive, allowing workers to make decisions exposes the site to 4 hazards. OSHA requires defective ladders to be removed from service immediately, preventing falls from height. Simply advising caution, patching rungs, or delegating responsibility is insufficient because damaged ladders compromise stability. Correct practice is inspection, tagging, and removing defective ladders until replaced or repaired, ensuring compliance with OSHA ladder standards and protecting personnel from serious injury. Question 3. From the perspective of managing a large HVACR team, Mr. Thompson notices frequent near-miss electrical shocks during routine equipment servicing. What is the most comprehensive way to reduce these incidents? A. Provide gloves and rubber mats for all employees. Implement a lockout-out LOTO program with training and periodic audits. C. Allow only experienced electricians to touch energized systems. D. Require workers to wear insulated boots at all times. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. While PPE like gloves and boots reduce risk, OSHA emphasizes that electrical hazards should be controlled primarily through administrative and engineering controls. LOTO procedures are critical to prevent unexpected energization, but simply restricting work to experienced staff without a full program is inadequate. Effective hazard control combines proper training, LOTO procedures, and use of qualified personnel to mitigate electrical hazards, ensuring systemic prevention rather than relying solely on personal protective measures. Question 4. Based on the information, Chen is tasked with storing various refrigerants in a warehouse with limited ventilation. Several cylinders are mixed together with different pressure ratings. What is the best practice to minimize risks? A. Store all cylinders together and label the room. Refrigerants inside. B. Segregate cylinders by chemical type and ensure proper ventilation. C. Only store cylinders upright without separation since labels indicate contents. D. Place cylinders near electrical panels for easy access during maintenance. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Proper refrigerant storage requires separation by chemical type, physical compatibility, and pressure rating to prevent reactions in the event of leaks or damage. Adequate ventilation prevents accumulation of flammable or toxic vapors. Simply labeling the room or placing cylinders near electrical panels creates a risk of fire or exposure. Upright storage is correct, but without segregation and ventilation, hazards remain. Following these practices aligns with OSHA and EPA Section 608 recommendations for refrigerant safety. Question 5. Considering the evidence, Mr. Patel is conducting a job site hazard analysis before installing rooftop AC units. He observes heavy materials that require lifting by his team. Which approach best reduces musculoskeletal injury risk? A. Allow employees to lift manually using proper body mechanics. B. Use mechanical lifting devices and implement team lifts for heavy objects. C. Assign lifting only to the most experienced workers. D. Let workers lift individually but provide training on ergonomics. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA and ergonomic best practices recommend eliminating or minimizing manual handling of heavy materials whenever possible. Using mechanical aids or team lifting reduces strain and injury risk. Relying solely on training or experience does not prevent overexertion injuries. Proper planning, lifting techniques, and engineering controls ensure compliance and protect workers' musculoskeletal health. This approach is more reliable than ad hoc reliance on individual skill or strength. Question 6. When analyzing a construction incident, HRConquer finds that worker suffered chemical burn due to improper labeling and storage of hazardous cleaning agents used for HVAC coils. What action best prevents recurrence? A. Conduct refresher training on chemical hazards. B. Implement full hazard communication program, including SDS access and proper labeling. C. Only allow senior employees to handle chemicals. D. Require workers to wear gloves and goggles without changing labeling. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Providing PPE alone does not address the root cause of chemical exposure. OSHA's hazard communication standard mandates that all chemicals are properly labeled and accompanied by SDS for hazard recognition and safe handling. Limiting access or training without full program leaves gaps. Comprehensive program ensures employees are aware of chemical hazards, understand protective measures, and have access to critical safety information, preventing similar incidents and aligning with OSHA best practices. Question 7. To what extent does ISTA need to consider fall protection when workers are erecting HVACR ductwork on a commercial roof without guardrails? A. Fall protection is only necessary if workers are on ladders. B. Personal fall arrest systems must be used if the fall hazard exceeds 6 feet. C. Workers can rely on caution and PPE like gloves and boots. D. Temporary barriers are optional if the work is brief. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA mandates fall protection for any height over 6 feet in construction. Guardrails, safety nets, or personal fall arrest systems are required for elevated work. Reliance on general PPE, caution, or optional temporary barriers does not meet regulatory standards. The correct approach protects workers from life-threatening falls, aligns with 29 CFR 1926 subpart M, and systemic prevention rather than relying on individual judgment or informal measures. Question 8. During the process of HVACR service, Alvarez observes that a worker repeatedly uses a damaged angle grinder without guards. What should be our immediate course of action? A. Allow continued use but instruct the worker to be careful. B. Remove the tool from service and provide proper equipment with guards. C. Only allow the worker to use the tool under supervision. D. Replace the wheel but keep the grinder in use. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Using power tools without guards violates OSHA standards and poses a serious risk of lacerations or amputations. Proper control measures require immediate removal of defective tools from service and replacement with safe, compliant equipment. Supervising unsafe practices or replacing only the consumable does not eliminate the hazard. Ensuring that all tools meet OSHA guarding requirements prevents injuries, fosters a safety-first culture on construction sites. Question 9. In an effort to ensure respiratory safety, ISTA is evaluating a team working around HVACR refrigerants in poorly ventilated spaces. Which approach most effectively complies with OSHA standards? A. Provide NN masks to all employees. B. Conduct a hazard assessment, fit test respirators, and train on proper usage. C. Post signs warning about refrigerant exposure. D. Allow only experienced staff to enter the area without testing. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Respiratory protection must be based on a hazard assessment. OSHA requires fit testing, selection of appropriate respirators, and training on use and maintenance. General and masks or warning signs alone are inadequate for protection against refrigerant inhalation. Restricting access without a structured program fails to address exposure risks. A comprehensive approach ensures that personnel are both medically and operationally prepared to work safely in hazardous atmospheres, meeting regulatory expectations. Question 10. Within the framework of a site safety program, Jackson is reviewing records and notices repeated minor injuries due to trips over uneven HVACR material storage areas. Which measure best addresses both prevention and OSHA compliance? A. Conduct weekly safety meetings without changing storage practices. B. Reorganize storage areas, maintain clear pathways, and enforce housekeeping standards. C. Instruct workers to watch their step carefully. D. Only provide slip-resistant footwear to employees. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. OSHA emphasizes hazard recognition, control, and preventive measures. Reorganizing storage and maintaining clear pathways reduces trip hazards and aligns with workplace housekeeping standards. Relying solely on caution or PPE addresses symptoms rather than causes. Regular meetings without physical hazard control fail to prevent incidents. Proactive material handling and storage strategies effectively reduce injury and demonstrate compliance with OSHA's general duty calls and construction safety best practices. Question 11. Given the circumstances, Takata is preparing to perform maintenance on an HVACR condenser unit on a rooftop. He notices the unit is near exposed electrical wiring and the weather is rainy. What is the safest immediate action? A. Wait for dry conditions and implement lockout alarm. LOTO procedures before work. B. Proceed carefully while wearing insulated gloves and boots. C. Cover the wires with plastic and continue work. D. Only allow a single experienced worker to perform the task. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Electrical hazards combined with wet conditions create a high risk of shock. OSHA standards require that energized systems be de-energized using LOTO procedures before maintenance. Simply relying on PPE, covering wires, or restricting personnel does not adequately control the hazard. Waiting for dry conditions and applying LOTO ensures a controlled environment, prevents accidental energization, and aligns with OSHA safety practices for electrical safety and roof-to-HVACR maintenance. Question 12. From a practical standpoint, Lopez observes her team handling large refrigerant cylinders in a cramped storage area. Several cylinders are leaning against each other. Which corrective action best addresses OSHA compliance and worker safety? A. Install proper racks and secure cylinders upright by chemical type. B. Leave cylinders as is, but mark the floor for spacing. C. Allow workers to brace cylinders while lifting. D. Store only the most commonly used refrigerants upright. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. Proper storage of refrigerants requires cylinders to be upright, segregated by type, and secured to prevent tipping or impact. Simply marking the floor or bracing during lifting leaves risk of leaks, explosion, or exposure. Selectively storing only certain cylinders or leaving them unsecured violates OSHA's hazard control principles. Using racks and securing all cylinders ensures stability, limits chemical hazards, and follows both OSHA and EPA Section 608 best practices for refrigerant safety. Question 13. While examining a construction site, Ahmed notices workers are using scaffolds without proper guardrails and performing ductwork installation at heights over 10 feet. What is the most appropriate action? A. Require installation of guardrails or personal fall arrest systems before work continues. B. Allow work to proceed but provide warning signs. C. Permit only experienced workers on scaffolds. D. Conduct a toolbox talk on fall hazards and continue work. Answer. Correct answer, A. Explanation. OSHA mandates fall protection for scaffolds above 6 feet. Guardrails, safety nets, or personal fall arrest systems are essential to prevent serious injuries. Providing only warnings, restricting access, or informal talks does not mitigate the hazard. Immediate installation of proper fall protection systems ensures compliance with 29 CFR 1926 subpart L and demonstrates proactive control, protecting workers from falls while performing elevated HVACR installation tasks. Question 14. With respect to HVACR services, the Green notices that a worker is using a hand grinder with the guard removed to speed up duct modifications. Which action best aligns with OSHA requirements? A. Remove the grinder from service and replace with a fully guarded tool. B. Allow the worker to continue with extra caution. C. Only supervise the work to ensure safety. D. Replace the grinding wheel but leave the guard off. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. OSHA requires that tools with missing guards be removed from service to prevent lacerations, amputations, or injuries. Simply cautioning workers or partial replacements does not eliminate hazards. Supervision alone does not meet regulatory standards, but immediate removal and replacement with compliant equipment ensures safety. Maintaining fully guarded tools and enforcing proper use is a fundamental principle. And power tool safety in HVACR construction and service tasks. Question 15. As illustrated by recent site inspections, Simmons identifies frequent near-miss trips due to cluttered HVACR material storage. What is the most effective intervention? A. Implement a housekeeping plan that ensures clear walkways and organized storage. B. Conduct weekly safety meetings without changing storage practices. C. Advise workers to pay more attention while walking. D. Provide slip-resistant footwear to all employees. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. OSHA emphasizes hazard elimination and control over reliance on worker vigilance or PPE. Proper housekeeping and organized material storage prevent trip hazards and align with general duty requirements. Safety meetings or advising caution do not remove physical hazards. While footwear provides limited protection, the primary method to prevent trips is proactive control, ensuring clear, organized pathways, compliance with OSHA standards for construction work site housekeeping. Question 16. During the process of installing rooftop HVAC units, Mr. Thompson notices heat stress symptoms in several workers. Which action should be prioritized to protect workers? A. Provide shaded rest areas, water, and implement work rest cycles. B. Only reduce workload for the most affected workers. C. Require workers to wear lighter clothing without additional measures. D. Schedule work only during cooler morning hours without hydration. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. OSHA recommends prevention of heat-related illnesses through engineering and administrative controls, including shaded rest areas, access to water, and scheduled rest periods. Adjusting workload for some workers or relying solely on clothing and timing does not sufficiently prevent heat stress. Implementing comprehensive preventive measures ensures physiological needs are met, reduces risk of heat stroke or exhaustion, and aligns with recognized heat stress safety protocols in construction and HVACR work. Question 17. In light of recent developments, Reynolds observes employees entering a confined HVACR space to repair piping without testing for oxygen deficiency or refrigerant exposure. What is the best immediate course of action? A. Conduct atmospheric testing and provide appropriate respirators before entry. B. Allow entry with only gloves and safety glasses. C. Post warning signs, but let experienced staff enter. D. Conduct only a verbal hazard briefing before work. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Confined space safety requires identification and mitigation of atmospheric hazards before entry. OSHA mandates air monitoring for oxygen deficiency, flammable gases, or toxic chemicals, and provision of respirators if required. PPE alone or verbal briefings do not eliminate risk, and warning signs without testing are insufficient. Proper evaluation and respiratory protection ensure compliance, prevent exposure to toxic or oxygen-deficient environments, and reduce potential fatalities or severe injuries in HVACR confined space. Question 18. For the purpose of a site safety audit, Mr. Rivera notices frequent minor injuries related to improper lifting of HVACR equipment. Which approach most effectively reduces risk? A. Use mechanical lifting aids and train teams on coordinated lifts. B. Instruct only experienced workers to lift manually. C. Provide general ergonomic training without mechanical aids. D. Advise workers to lift carefully using correct posture. Answer. Correct answer, A. Explanation. OSHA and ergonomics guidelines prioritize engineering and administrative controls to prevent musculoskeletal disorders. Mechanical aids and team lifts reduce strain and overexertion. Limiting lifting to experienced workers or providing only general training does not eliminate hazards. Implementing structured lifting methods and equipment aligns with best practices for material handling, ensuring repeatable safety procedures, reducing injuries and enhancing compliance with occupational health standards. Question 19. When faced with a chemical refrigerant spill, Patel must respond immediately. Which action best aligns with OSHA hazard communication and emergency response principles? A. Evacuate the area, isolate the spill, and follow SDS guidance for cleanup. B. Use rags to absorb the spill without protective gear. C. Allow workers to continue working nearby while supervising cleanup. D. Dilute the refrigerant with water before disposal. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA hazard communication and emergency procedures require prompt isolation of hazardous substances and adherence to SDS instructions for handling and disposal. Personal exposure must be prevented through evacuation and PPE. Absorbing spills without protection or diluting chemicals can create additional hazards, while allowing nearby work increases risk of exposure. Proper containment, protective measures, adherence to SDS instructions ensure safe response and regulatory compliance during HVACR refrigerant incidents. Question 20. Taking into account OSHA inspection practices, Wallace observes a near-miss incident where a worker was struck by a falling tool. He wants to prevent recurrence and demonstrate compliance. What is the most effective approach? A. Implement tool tethering, guardrails, and secure storage practices. B. Only train workers to be aware of falling objects. C. Assign experienced workers to high-risk areas. D. Conduct toolbox talks without physical controls. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. OSHA emphasizes engineering controls to prevent falling object hazards, such as tethering tools, installing guardrails, and maintaining secure storage. Training and toolbox talks alone do not eliminate risks. Proper preventive measures reduce injuries, enforce compliance with 29 CFR 1926 subpart M and L, and demonstrate proactive management commitment. Combining physical controls, worker awareness ensures sustained hazard mitigation and strengthens a culture of safety on HVACR construction sites. Question 21. In a modern context of roof-to-HVACR maintenance, Edwards observes workers standing on a sloped roof without any fall protection. The team is also handling heavy duct sections. What should be his first step? A. Require use of personal fall arrest systems or safety nets before work proceeds. B. Allow experienced workers to continue while cautioning them. C. Only use ladders for duct placement instead of walking on the roof. D. Schedule work for cooler hours to reduce fatigue. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. OSHA mandates fall protection for elevated work over 6 feet, and working on sloped roofs increases risk. Reliance on caution, timing, or restricting to experienced personnel does not control hazards. Installing personal fall arrest systems, guardrails, or safety nets ensures compliance with Subpart M, protects workers from life-threatening falls, and demonstrates proactive hazard control. Heavy material further reinforces the need for secure fall protection in conjunction with proper lifting practices. Question 22. Considering the evidences, Doublers notices several workers operating grinders and power saws without the appropriate iron face protection. What is the most compliant approach? A. Require PPE including face shields and safety glasses and remove defective guards. B. Allow workers to continue but monitor closely. C. Only provide safety glasses without face shields. D. Train workers on eye hazards without enforcing PPE. Yes. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA requires that workers exposed to flying particles or sparks use appropriate PPE such as face shields and safety glasses. Simply monitoring work, partial PPE, or informal training does not prevent injuries. Removal of defective guards is essential, but PPE enforcement is non-negotiable. Ensuring all grinders and saws have proper guarding and providing complete iron face protection, risk of lacerations or blindness, and aligns with OSHA hand and power tool safety standards. Question 23. Upon closer examination, Mr. Harris observes workers storing HVACR materials in walkways, causing trip hazards. Which approach best addresses OSHA compliance? A. Implement a housekeeping plan with clear aisles and marked storage areas. B. Conduct safety meetings without changing storage. C. Advise workers to watch their steps carefully. D. Only provide slip-resistant footwear. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA requires proactive hazard elimination. Simply advising caution or relying on PPE is insufficient. Clear aisles, proper storage, and consistent housekeeping prevent trips and falls, aligning with OSHA's general duty clause. Safety meetings alone do not mitigate hazards physically, but organizing storage and maintaining walkways ensures both compliance and prevention of repetitive minor injuries in construction and HVACR sites. Proper planning and physical control measures are essential for effective hazard management. Question 24. In an effort to perform emergency refrigerant recovery, Jackson notices that one cylinder is leaking slightly. What is the safest immediate course of action? A. Evacuate the area, isolate the cylinder, and follow SDS instructions for safe handling. B. Continue recovery while monitoring for leaks. C. Use a rag to temporarily seal the leak. D. Dilute the refrigerant with water to reduce risk. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Refrigerant leaks pose asphyxiation, chemical, and flammability hazards. OSHA and EPA Section 608 require immediate isolation and adherence to SDS procedures. Continuing work, temporary sealing, or dilution does not control the hazard and may worsen exposure. Evacuation, proper PPE, and controlled recovery procedures ensure worker safety. Following chemical safety standards mitigates risk during refrigerant recovery, demonstrating compliance and preventing potential incidents on work sites. Question 25. The underlying principle of ISTA-KIM's safety plan is to minimize ergonomic injuries during heavy HVACR equipment installation. Which method best aligns with OSHA recommendations? A. Use mechanical lifting aids and enforce team lifts. B. Provide ergonomic training only. C. Assign lifting tasks only to physically strong employees. D. Advise careful lifting using proper posture. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA and ergonomic guidelines prioritize engineering and administrative controls over reliance on training or individual strength. While training improves awareness, mechanical aids and team lifts effectively prevent musculoskeletal injuries. Simply advising careful lifting is insufficient. The most compliant approach involves combining ergonomic planning, proper lifting techniques, and mechanical assistance to overexertion, demonstrating proactive hazard control and adherence to OSHA material handling and ergonomic standards. Question 26. From multiple perspectives, ISTA-Newen notices that workers entering a confined HVACR space are not using atmospheric monitors or respirators, even though refrigerant leaks are possible. What is the correct course of action? A. Require atmospheric testing and provide appropriate respirators before entry. B. Allow experienced workers to enter without monitoring. C. Post warning signs and proceed with caution. D. Conduct only verbal hazard briefings. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA's confined space regulations require identification and control of atmospheric hazards. PPE alone, warning signs, or verbal briefings are insufficient. Monitoring oxygen levels, flammable gases, and refrigerants is critical, and workers must have proper respiratory protection if hazardous conditions are detected. Comprehensive hazard assessment ensures compliance, prevents potential fatalities, and reinforces safe work practices during HVACR confined space operations, emphasizing proactive hazard mitigation rather than reactive measures. Question 27. While examining tool safety, Alvarez notices workers using damaged power saws. What is the best OSHA-compliant action? A. Remove defective tools from service and provide properly guarded replacements. B. Allow workers to continue with caution. C. Only supervise the use of damaged tools. D. Replace consumables, but leave guards off. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. OSHA requires that defective or unsafe tools be immediately removed from service. Using damaged power saws, relying on supervision or partial replacement without guarding exposes workers to severe injuries. Providing properly maintained and fully guarded tools is essential for hand and power tool safety. Immediate replacement reduces hazards, ensures compliance with Subpart I, and establishes a safety-first culture. HVACR construction and maintenance environments. Question 20. During roof-mounted HVACR installation, ISTA Patel observes high heat exposure with several workers showing signs of fatigue and heat illness. Which approach best mitigates risk? A. Provide shaded rest areas, water, and schedule work rest cycles. B. Only reduce workload for the most affected workers. C. Require lighter clothing but no rest adjustments. D. Schedule work only in the morning. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA heat stress prevention requires active engineering and administrative controls, hydration, shade, rest cycles, and acclimatization. Limiting intervention to only certain workers or relying solely on timing or clothing is insufficient. Implementing structured work rest cycles with shade and water access mitigates heat illness, ensures compliance with OSHA recommendations, and prevents physiological strain during strenuous roof-to-HVACR work. Proactive measures reduce risk across all personnel, not just select individuals. Question 29. During a site hazard analysis, Thompson notices that multiple employees are exposed to electrical hazards when servicing HVACR equipment. Which approach is most effective? A. Implement a lockout-tagout LOTO program with training and auditing. B. Only allow qualified electricians to handle energized systems. C. Provide gloves and rubber mats to all workers. D. Post warning signs near equipment. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. OSHA emphasizes LOTO as the primary method to prevent accidental energization, while PPE, signage, or restricting work to qualified personnel reduces some risk. LOTO provides systemic control by ensuring machinery cannot be energized during servicing. Training and periodic auditing reinforce adherence, mitigate electrical hazards, and align with Subpart K requirements. Engineering and administrative controls are preferred over relying solely on PPE or experience to prevent severe injuries or fatalities in HVACR operations. Question 30. Within the framework of an HVACR safety program, Mr. Simmons observes repeated minor injuries from falling tools. What is the most effective OSHA-compliant intervention? A. Install tool tethering systems and enforce secure storage above head height. B. Conduct toolbox talks emphasizing caution. C. Only allow experienced workers to use tools overhead. D. Provide hard hats without changing storage practices. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. OSHA requires engineering controls to prevent falling object hazards, such as tethering, proper storage, and securing tools above head level. Reliance solely on toolbox talks experience or PPE like hard hats does not eliminate the hazard. Physical hazard control, combined with worker awareness, reduces injuries, ensures compliance with 20 INCFR 1926 Subpart M, and proactive safety culture on HVACR construction sites. Eliminating root causes is always preferred over reactive measures.